What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. Look what I wore today. Whoopsie. Bring it on, SEC. No, I'm just kidding. It's your boy GYMRAT Crypto. I'm live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern with my co-host, Sam Stolt. He's a giga genius. He's 6'2". He's got roughly 7.8% body fat. And he could probably beat the brakes off you with 3 of his fingers. Now, let's move on from that. I'm pretty hype on me and Sam right now because all these superhero AI pictures came out of us, and it made me think, yeah, we are superheroes. F it. And I love that AI art stuff. Anyway, this is the most non-biased crypto show in the world. There's a lot of people that think I'm a D rider. I'm a Hex D rider. They think I'm a Richard Hart maxi. The fact is, I am the most vocal critic of Hex, probably in the ecosystem. And I've only been here for 600 days. I've been critical ever since I got over the initial understanding. I've been hypercritical. Why? Because I want to know if this shit's going to work, and I want to know what's going on. So me and Sam are going to go through this in a very unbiased way. I'm not bringing up all the feelies, all the scammer shit. Richard Hart's not a scammer. Richard Hart created a product that's immutable on the blockchain. It's an ERC20. You can send, trade, swap, and stake. And if you think that's a scam, then have fun with all your other coins that are scams. But we can talk a little bit about the nuanced points of liquidity providing, how people earn fees on that, and how that can be not selling sometimes, Sam, because a big thing is not selling, right? OA doesn't sell. These big entities don't sell. But do they have liquidity providing fee generation? That's considered selling in my book. Sam's going to dive into all this. Sam doesn't give a rat's shit about any of the personality. And he'll say it to you. I know that. He doesn't even care, really. Maybe intellectually it's kind of stimulating to think about sometimes, but in general, Sam's the best co-host to have for a lot of reasons. One, none of these men would look him in the face and say a goddamn word. And two, he went to school and took the hardest tests in the country for banking and for investment stuff. I don't know the exact terminology because I skipped all the schooling, but I think it's really important to understand Sam's perspective on this. I have Hex in my bag. I make money on liquidity providing in Hex. I have stakes. Oh my God. Is this such an emotional moment for me? No, I could give two shits. You guys ruined that shit a long time ago with absolute ignorance and people in my DMs calling people vampires that are, making other ERC20s. I think intellectual integrity went down the drain a long time ago in a lot of these discussions. And I told Sam this morning, dude, I'm down to you, buddy. Basically. And I'm talking intellectually. I got to figure this shit out. I got a couple guys that I trust. Most of them don't even know what they're talking about. Most of the YouTubers I watch have not a clue about liquidity providing. They would never come on the show. They would never say a word in person because I have extreme neurotic tendencies. So I know that no one's keeping up except a few guys. So it's not like a personality contest, right? It's getting to know this information in depth and understanding that maybe we can have a good hunch on the future. I don't care about Richard personally. He doesn't care about me personally. So why am I'm not going to bring up personal shit. I don't know the guy like that. I just watch, but he created something immutable, something that was hard to do at the time, something that survived for 3 years with 100% uptime. It's something that I frankly like. If you want me to be quite honest, it's really not the thing I would put all my money in or anything. I never thought it was for that. But I think it's important that we think about these things critically. And me and Sam are going to try to do this real slow. The video is 26 minutes. I'm thinking we should play it through the whole time and then take notes on it, Sam. And then go back and play it again because I have to play it through because we just won't do it. Oh, look, everyone's saying I'm crying for being blocked. He unblocked me, bro. I'm not crying for being blocked, bro. I'm crying. If I was crying for anything, it'd be I invited Richard Hart on this show 165 times straight, asked him the hardest and best questions in his DMs and was constantly friendly with him, and he never came on the show. And then he called me a pleb. If anything pissed me off, it was that. Come on the show, Richard. Talk to me, Rich. Is this all fair game, Rich? Why don't you come on if it's all good to go? I like you. I like your book. I read it a lot. I think Sam would enjoy talking to you as well. So we'll talk. Anyway, guys, crypto in the morning, every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern. God bless. Life is amazing. Everything is going beautifully. You need to stay emotionally fit. And that is the primary goal for every day of your life. If you have that taken care of, everything else is just cake.
You already know what time it is. Crypt in the morning. Crypt in the morning. Crypt in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypt in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypt in the morning. Crypt in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stay. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. GYMRAT sent me to show you the way. Crypt in the morning. 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 Crypt in the morning.
So what is a cult, right? Because that's what we're going to be looking into today. How do you define a cult? Like, what is a cult? Cult of hex, right? Generally, it's going to be probably a small group of people with a similar belief system that is maybe different or has to be different by definition, I guess, than a lot of society, right? So if you had to define what it is and you looked it up, this is from Google, a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister, right? Does that sound like the hex community relative to outside of the hex community? Maybe a smidge, maybe a smidge.
Oh, well, ask me a question. Like, what's the question on that?
What is your definition of a cult?
Well, I think it's about the naivete. So basically, they take things that people in their ecosystem could never learn, and they know that, and they've already learned that. So basically, you take a group of people that by definition could have never learned about liquidity pools. A good portion of them is what I mean. By definition, could not have learned about LPing and owning the casino. But then guys like me come in. Like, and yes, I've had weird experiences, but I've interacted with many, many wealthy people in my life for whatever reason. Whether that just be like, I grew up around wealthy people. I'm a white boy. I played lacrosse really well. Shit happens, guys. And I learned a lot of those weird little secrets that you just don't get a chance. Like when I had the chance to go on a private jet to the Masters when I was 12. And I think I complained about it. I didn't want to go. Sound like me? Yeah. But anyway, you learn a lot of these things like, wow, $1 billion makes you still funnel alcohol into your mouth at high speeds. That's interesting, right? You learn that as a kid. I thought broke people under bridges only funneled alcohol in their mouth. So this is important to understand that me and Sam talk about dense info, and we came into this community already talking about that. And then when I started just chatting about some of these more nuanced topics as I got better at it, I was immediately shunned and blocked in every way possible.
Oh, so what do you think? Because I think that's a very interesting point, right? There's a lot of people who don't have, there's a lot of people who don't have money. And so their idea is that money is going to solve the problems that they tell themselves about their life. You have had a different experience with money, where when you see people with money, you understand that the money doesn't solve being broken. You can be broke and broken, or you can be rich and broken.
And I've done both of those 6 times back and forth in 10 years. And I with alcohol, drugs, everything. I just went all in. I got in trouble with the cops. I learned about my dopamine receptors. I learned about my human mind. I had to sit in some sort of, I didn't go into prison or anything. I went into some correctional, halfway house situation. And I stayed there for 6 years, and I prayed to God every day that I would learn how to do life right so I never fucked up again. And guess what? I've been crushing ever since, but it's been tough. But I learn now when stuff gets hard, I learn harder. I don't know how to do a thumbnail. I'm going to have to make 4 today. I don't know what people are thinking about. I watched 5 of these Hex's cult videos today, but it's about knowing what you want, going for it. You're not always perfect. I don't know if this is going to be the best episode ever for dense info. I've never watched the video all the way through. I just watch other people's videos like a little through. So I think it's important to know that there's a lot of nuance here. There's 2 groups of people, Sam. People that want to be stimulated intellectually for moral and good God reasons. They feel like they have a reason on this earth. I was put on this earth to work, boy. I was put on this earth to fight. I was put on this earth to stand for something. And then there's people that think I need to make money so I don't end up a loser.
It's a lot of people.
Damn, it's just that easy. I need resources because I'm running out so fast and I'm the biggest loser and I don't really have any dreams, aspirations. And then there's people, I need to gather resources so I can get a team of super fucking humans near me. What do I say all day? The second I get my hands on big money, I'm going to have the biggest team around me immediately. I don't care if I go to 0. I don't care if it's disgusting overhead. I don't care if it's, I need information now. In the clock's ticking and I'm dying. Like everyone is dying, right? And I could get hit by a freaking bus. My neighbor was smacking a car with a crowbar last night. He's high risk. Okay? So okay, Sam, let's just watch the video once through, and I want you to say your piece before we do.
Before we get into the video, why don't you go through and give us context of what this video is, and then we'll get into this video. We're probably going to play it through like a once over, and then we're going to take some notes, right? I've got my notebook right here, and we're going to take some notes, and we will get into it at the end. We'll also do some timestamps, so this way we're not interrupting the video multiple
Please
times.
do a couple timestamps for me, because I just get a little, like I could say I'll do it, but then I'll just start doing some stuff. And so do 2 or 3 timestamps. I'll do 2 or 3, and then we'll take notes on those 2 or 3. That's a good idea.
We'll get to the commentary towards the end of it.
But me and Sam will be in the chat. So if you have questions for me and Sam, this is the time to ask. We have a 26-minute video, and then me and Sam are giving our take on it for 30 minutes. This is not a 7-minute, how's the V2 LP in 10 years on 2025. No, this is serious. This is now. This is important. We know what's going on in the world right now. I'm not going to get into all the stuff, but there's beanbags, sex orgies, and hunter buying laptops everywhere. So that was a little joke. But anyway, let's watch the video, guys. Biceps in the chat. Please smash the like and share this out. I really want to try and pay attention, so I'm not going to be super hype on like sharing this to every Telegram and all that stuff. I'm just going to watch the video with Sam. I think this content will last, and I think this video has been very impactful, being that it has 600,000 views in one day.
That's a lot.
In crypto, that's a lot.
Correct. Hold on, let me pull this up. There you go.
What is hex? What are hexagons, and what is the definition of financial freedom? For anyone curious, allow me to show you.
2 years ago, I was in a horrible place in my life. I was homeless, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and I was losing my life by then. I had no hope, no goals, and I was just living day to day. Then I found out about Richard, and he helped me so much with his self-help books and videos that it changed my life completely. I was so thankful to find somebody who could now help me and give me the motivation to be successful in life. I started learning about Hex, and it made me financially free. This was the point when Hex Lion and I started a YouTube channel. We understood that we have an amazing financial product in front of us that will make us financially free. And now we have to build a community. We have to bring our friends and families along with us on this journey.
For me, it takes on new meaning as time goes on. The first part of it was monetary success. The next part of it comes that you feel like you're part of a community, some different type of community that, is not looking for money, but is already got their capital, and they're doing things and they're making things happen. A lot of love going on. There's a lot of overlapping care. Hexkins helping Hexkins, and everyone's got open arms,
Call it a scam, nobody really cares. We can tell you the only one that ain't prepared. Oh yes, I'ma be a millionaire. 5, 5, 5, 5, a couple trillion shares. Oh no, I ain't getting wrecked again. Richard Hart, he got us set to win. We're a family, we are the best of friends. We ain't a cult, man, just call us Hexagon.
77, 46, 77.
You won 5,000 hex. Your future is pretty much.
Just one comment, guys. I didn't realize I must have missed some portions of it, guys. I was at this event, not this event. It might have been this event, but that one they were just showing, I was there. Amazing people, amazing time, amazing community, nothing but love, nothing but camaraderie. And I mean, yes, there was little fights and shit and crazy stuff, but man, it was a great time. And I'm just saying that I just went. Someone paid for me to go. I just rolled up, baby. I went to Vegas, baby. So I think that's important to note. I went there. I saw these people. I can identify and tell you that for sure that video was accurate, that beginning part. It was just as beautiful as they made it seem, which is an interesting way to start a Hex as a Cult video.
It's also appropriate with A-Bit.
What'd you say?
It's also appropriate to have A-Bit at the beginning.
He's beautifully awesome. I love him. I'm sorry. He's so
awesome. His story is awesome. Like, living in the basement of your apartment and going through and doing that, but that's another time. Let's get back into this video.
And my ego is going to be my downfall. That's why I haven't left my house in a month or changed clothes. My ego is just vibrant.
I did the calculation for my friend, right? And I staked out 5,000 hex for my friend for 10 years. And I did the calculation, bro, you're a millionaire already.
Long story short, Hex is a cult.
All right, I just made a decision, Sam. We are going to let it play for 5 minutes at a time and talk about it a little bit. So just tell me to stop at a. This is relatable as S to me. I just didn't realize, and like I went through this, guys. Like I want you to understand. Like I went from not understanding one thing about finance, Sam. You know that I only asked you about bodybuilding and pharma. I never asked you about finance because I didn't care and I didn't know. And I was one of the people I got into crypto, and Sam got in on the back end of it because he already knew finance, but I just told him about cool stuff that I found. So understand that I went from zero financial understanding to making God rockets on liquidity pool charts and making memes with my friends and talking, but for real, talking about liquidity providing, earning passive income, earning yield on your money, being the casino. So it's a big switch up for me, and emotionally it was. But now Sam's guided me through that because it was pretty easy for him, rather not as easy for me.
What is the definition of a cult? According to Merriam-Webster, a cult is defined as great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work.
All right, just off the jump, Sam, and I'm just because the definition came out, do you agree? In 1 out of 10, how much do you think Hex fits into that definition? Because there's gray area.
So this is, I think you said this is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. A great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work. I definitely think that people place Richard Hart in that category. There's a lot of people that appear to place Richard Hart in the category. And that comes out into the rest of the community to some extent. For sure. Not the idea of making fucking intelligent decisions, of, being financially responsible, investing in your future, like doing the shit you need to do in your life, I think has been around for a long time. And he appears to be able to took that and put it into crypto and cultivated people to the point where
now he taught all of us about real financial shit, like no bullshit. Like he taught us about Bitcoin, Ethereum before Hex ever came out. Everything. Where does that kind of come in? Do you see other? I'm wondering. I don't know how the cults kind of do it. I don't really know that life. And I'm assuming they tell you something that gets you excited. But in this case, Richard told me to sell the top at 57K, which I did. And it changed my life forever. Maybe not like, it changed my dynamic on a few things. And it changed my outlook on a few things. And it taught me about market cycles. Interesting to note, I think, before we get into the rest of the video, a great devotion to a person. To be honest, that is the way that I felt when I initially came into Hex. I said, Richard Hart really is something great. Look at the self-help book. I haven't seen anything like this in crypto yet, and I love self-help. You know that.
Often connected to the concept of ritualized sacrifice, cults are typically built around some sort of charismatic figure and held together with strict religious control. In 1968, for example, created by David Berg, a group now known as the Family International was formed, where hippies and unchurched youth were taken in, sheltered, and provided for inside isolated communes. According to anyone inside the cult at the time, David Berg was simply the iconoclastic founder of a non-traditional Christian movement. However, as years went by, escaped members and others familiar who were able to break free began to reveal that the Family International, also previously known as the Children of God, was a viper's nest of sexual or financial abuse, exploitation, and trauma. Focusing on the concept of recruitment, David Berg instructed, or rather inspired, his followers to share this dogma around the world with over 260 million people across 100 different nations. Boasting membership in the tens of thousands, the Children of God remains, to this very day, an example of cult allegiance and zealous devotion centered on a charismatic leader. Now, what does this have to do with Hex, you may ask? Well, let's find out. Hex is a crypto token, but not just a crypto token, a mechanism of financial freedom. Hex token is designed from the ground up to create wealth. But what if I told you that all it does, all it has ever done, and all it will ever do forever into the future is destroy? That kind of statement will inevitably cause backlash. Those who are stuck in the maze of cult ideology are not typically capable of rational thought. Worse yet, for those currently trapped inside the world of Hex, followers aren't just ensnared by dogmatic rhetoric, they're actually protecting their own investments. However, to explain this, we need to look at what Hex is, where it came from, and who is the leader responsible. This is Richard Hart. To be clear, Richard Hart is an alias. His actual name is Richard J. Schuller, but we'll address that later in the video. Richard is a quintessential charismatic leader. Inspiring his fans around the world, he has produced a token called Hex, which is advertised as a mechanism where they will become financially free. But what if all of it was a lie? Hex.com is an interesting place. Advertising a near 40%, 38% to be exact, annual return on staked tokens, a number higher than what is...
All right, Sam, I'm tagging you in, brother. Because this is, Sam is critical on this point, and he's critical often, not loud, just critical.
The 38%. So I've had a tax stake for almost a year at this point, and I checked a week or 2 weeks ago or something, and still not anywhere near 38%. It's still great 30+%. Like I think it was like 31%, but still not anywhere near 38% as claimed on the website. Maybe it should be updated to the actual reality of the situation. And it was a 15-year stake that I put out there. So I don't know why that is the case, or maybe it's the average over multiple periods of time.
Richard only highlights the exact proper tactic within a statistic, laying out a statistic. So
Sure,
he's going to take exactly, but he does it on every one. And he thinks that's a positive strategy. And maybe it is, Sam. I don't know. I'm not the guy. But it is important to note, Sam, guys like you come in and do a stake. Okay, the average. Why would the average be 7 years? Is there daughter addresses that have more Hex than anyone that has staked for a very long time, making the average go up? Yeah, of course. But is that like make or break for everything? Yeah, I don't know. All right, I don't know. All I know is there has to be people are going to say stuff like this, Sam, and I have to highlight this. I think this is important, Sam. The OA address is Richard's safety deposit box. For all we know, Richard could own 100 more wallets per reserving liquidity for him at the back end. Guess what, private name? There's $10 million in there. He has 3 watches that are worth the entire liquidity pools of those. I don't think so. I think Ethereum would be his safety deposit box before all of this stuff, because Hex is a derivative of Ethereum. It's just a bunch of stuff in between that pretends it's not. right? And it has a community and it has a cult, or in this case, a cult following. I'm involved in that, I guess. But so it's important to note $10 million in the USDC pool is rather pathetic when you're talking about real investments, Sam, but not for me. So is this important? Is this the way it works? There was no liquidity in Bitcoin when people should have been buying it. Okay. $10 million in liquidity, not a lot. Opportunity, yes. You can sell, yes. But could big guys come in? I don't know.
This is probably some form of inevitable to take place in the crypto space, because everything is going to be digitized in the legacy world into crypto, where it is code. And if we were talking about this the other day, the market for people who use CDs, there's definitely a market there. And it's something that is easily able to grasp because it's already working. And another thing, which is very interesting, there's this marketer business guy that I follow. I don't remember his name. And he shared with me how one of the things that he does is very successful is he will look at, say, someplace where you get those discount deals. I forget what they're called, like where you go on there, you can get a really good deal on something, like a coupon for it or whatever. There's those big sites that do it, right? And then he'll look around at, say, like salon owners or yoga studios or gyms or whatever, and see the top packages, or maybe even dentists or law offices, and we'll see the top packages selling in terms of the copy, but also the creative. And what he has found that works is when you take something in this marketplace where there's a boatload of people and you copy this, like basically paraphrase the ad and the copy verbatim almost into a new environment with, again, millions and millions of people, it is inevitably going to be successful because you already have a framework over here that is successful, and then you move it into here and it is successful over here. So when I think about hacks, that is one of the ways that I think about that, is where this guy takes the ads on Grubhub comes to mind, but that's not it. Deal Dad. I don't know where the name of the actual website is, but you can go there and buy like ridiculous deals on shit and then copy them and put them onto Facebook ads. And the idea with this is the same thing. You're copying what's in legacy and then you're putting it into crypto, because people already understand that concept, because it's working over here, that has a higher probability to work over here. And
what do you think about the CD concept and the store of value concept and the hex concept? Just in general, I guess someone who has been in legacy finance and banking and all of the shit, what does it seem like compared to some of those things? Like, just, I mean, I know it's a brainstorm a bit, but what does it feel in game? Does it feel like it's in play? Does it feel like this is normal? Does it feel like he's onto something, or does this feel like maybe something that would be a little bit off within the industry as a whole, in your opinion?
I think it is onto something. And one of the things that when you notice things like Google versus Ask Jeeves or Yahoo, right? People who used Google were thought of as like a cult or weirdos, right? They're like, they only use Google. They didn't use Ask Jeeves for searches. This is back in the day. They didn't use Yahoo. There are other examples like that. And I see similarities in the Hex community, which to me is promising. As
well as I agree with that point, is promising,
because what we know, in order for the price to go up, we need more people involved. And if you get people that don't shut the fuck up, right, they're going to get more people in. That's a good thing, right? Because they're looking at it through a different lens, and they also, as the video is about to get into, they need to protect their bags. If you put $20,000 into something, you lock that shit up for 10 years. Do you think you're going to talk shit about that thing that you literally have your money in? I don't think so, right? So it almost forces people to talk positively about it and recruit more people in.
And Sam, what do we know about people? 90% of them just don't understand the information that they're actually buying and regurgitating. And I'm going to put a 90% on that. I think it's like 50% that they say, and like whatever. GRC switched that 40% up to 90. Like in 2023, 90% of people that do everything don't know a damn thing. 100% of the YouTubers that I watch don't know a damn thing about anything they're talking about, except like, okay, you know what I mean. The ones I watched a lot of these videos, they don't know, they're just looking for a job or like a gig or something to do, instead of doubling down and understanding every aspect, technical aspect of the field that they're in. And if they only knew it only took 300, 200 days, Sam, you'd think they'd probably get busy. They think it takes 10 years. Whoops, they're wrong. The information's here. It's now. It's live. Spend 8 hours a day focusing on it. I promise. You will be there faster than you assume. That's why I come out and talk. I can talk controversially about Hex because I studied the information in depth more than anyone. I don't think there's anyone who's watched more hours of Richard Hart videos within the last 300 days and streamed and studied and looked at every liquidity providing opportunity than me. I really don't think so. And Sam. And it's not about the money. It's about the information. Some guys really can get into this information and figure it out quick. They have confidence in themselves in the space, in any space. And leaders will start to come into the space. And Sam, I can see it all the time. Leaders coming into the space. Jack LeVin created Zen in 34 days. That sounds like promise. That sounds like someone who knows what the fuck they're doing. That sounds like someone who came in here, had a problem, studied it, figured it out, put it on paper, got a team, and got ready to go. And I like that. And I like that people like that and Sam. I tell all the time, like, people are like, Hedron this, Hedron that. I'm like, Sam's over there. Watch your fucking back. Like, guys like this, they won't stop. If he likes this shit long term, I'm not saying Hedron in particular. I'm just saying, like, let's say he gets on something that he's just like, oh, this is it. I know there's 150 guys like him, 300 guys like him, 1,000 guys like him. They don't stop. They never stop. There's guys like me. They don't stop. And they come into these ecosystems and it's fair game with millions of dollars in liquidity. Sam, it's promising to me. I'm sorry. Unless there's some legality. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's possible anywhere else.
Incredible conversation, though.
In the entire crypto or traditional finance ecosystem when staked for an average of 7 years, Hex is viewed by its community as a vehicle to uncapped personal wealth. I won't focus too heavily on technical aspects of the smart contract or devolve into frivolous details, but the gist of it is that Hex allows people to buy, stake, and earn interest by holding the token. Staking is a critical thing to understand here because staking is a mechanism by which users will lock their tokens behind a certain time limit. Upon entering the Hex ecosystem, you are highly incentivized, even pushed is the word I would use, into the world of staking, because the more you stake and the longer you agree to have it locked away, the more interest you will earn as a result. Hex as a token is highly inflationary.
I have to stop because the reason Hex staking is pushed, in my opinion, is because Richard Hart and me and everyone noticed, it's easy to notice, everyone, 99% of people that have liquid funds will send them to zero. Period. I remember that I said that 90%. That 90%, if held liquid, will not provide LP and earn daily interest. They will sell it for Dogecoin, or maybe not Dogecoin because that one's actually decent, I guess. But like, you know what I'm saying? They'll get rid of it. They'll hide it. They'll lose it. They'll get scammed. So Richard noticed that with Bitcoin, everyone lost money because they lost the entire stack. I think that's why Hex staking, and Hex staking does not enforce locking up your coins. When your coins are staked, they are burnt. They are gone. It is a unit of accounting on the front end. This comes into play with the T-share rate. The guy is smart, but he doesn't know everything. So just remember that. He can't know everything. He probably did a damn good job studying for this too. That's hard to know. That takes a while.
All right. More of it is generated every single time the tokens are unstaked. And when the marketing, branding, and advertising for Hex is built around the idea that you will someday be rich, it means that users have a hard-coded expectation of return. That's important because expectation of return is something that Richard Hart seems very keen to avoid.
Self-help.
How many Hex have you sold personally?
If you look publicly, it looks like zero, but I can't tell you because.
Again, I have to stop it right there and just say I believe he is saying this because he's doing everything in his ability to not get an SEC violation, which we all see is coming into play now. He is getting SEC violations, and other YouTubers in Hex are getting SEC violations. So this is coming into play now. He tried to protect himself and it didn't work out. I think that's why he doesn't talk about it. But providing liquidity with the OA, by definition, is not selling. But by real definition, you are selling one coin for the other. So basically understand, when you are providing liquidity with an asset, all you're doing is putting another term in front of selling, but you just earn some fees in between. That's it. So understand that. So let's say the OA is providing liquidity. That means they're making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day on volume. And that's kind of why he says that. I think he clears it up a little bit right there.
Expectation of return. That's important because expectation of return is something that Richard Hart seems very keen to avoid.
Self-help. How many hex have you sold personally?
If you look publicly, it looks like 0, but I can't tell you because Howey test, right?
So you've never sold any hex and taken any cash? You just have all the hex.
Let's go over the rumors. Let's go over the rumors. You used to be able to transform. I'm answering your question with more words if you relax. I can't tell you about my finances because Howey test. I can't tell you about my finances because expectation of value based on what I do. No, if you think the value is going to go up or down based on what I do, it's an expectation. I don't give people expectations.
The Howey test has to do with work effort that you are expending on your part. If you simply tell people how many of your own, but
yes, giving people assumptions about your future behavior is forward-looking statement is fucking bog standard.
I'm not asking you what you're going to do in the future. I'm just saying, have you sold any of the hex that you created and gotten cash for it, or some other cryptocurrency? You know, it's just a yes or no question. You're not violating the Howey rule by telling me.
Here are some of the many examples of hex marketing used to drive a further adoption and increase token value by onboarding fresh users. Subway screens, taxis, bus banners, trucks, magazines, even NASCAR sponsorships, and direct mail marketing postcards sent out all across the country.
And these are my friends, by the way. And I do want to make that these are decent dudes that are like nice fucking dudes, just like Funding Jim. Me and Funding Jim don't see eye to eye. We butt heads all the time. But I would love in the future if we had ideas that we could all have synergy and talk together, because he's a businessman and he's a nice guy. And I love this comment. Great show. Any responsible investor should consider counterpoints with intellectual honesty. You and Sam highlight things to consider. I totally appreciate that comment coming from you, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to be honest. I love this shit and I don't want any of it to fail. But I think that this information is all going to come out, and I would like to be a voice for reason. Sam, do you have anything to say about the that Howey test piece?
I think that Richard doesn't want to go to jail, right? And right. And I'm not saying this in the sense that like he's going to go to jail or that he's created something that is going to put him in jail. But I think he's just being abundantly trying to be cautious about this, because lawyers are very adept at taking some of these words and trying to manipulate them in a way to take them out of context, right? Look at mainstream media, right? They're masters at this.
Who wins that race usually? A guy like Richard who really knows the rules. You do this all the time, Sam. You do your taxes in such a way that there's not a tax advisor in the human race that could tell you you're wrong. And you know that. What do you think about guys like Richard? He studied these rules. He paid attention. If you had to make a miracle guess about how this would all work out, do you think he's in the clear? I know there's trouble in between, but
taking the time to understand the rules of the game you're choosing to play in is a intelligent move, right? If somebody's going to get into, crypto, then you should probably understand what the F you're doing. And if you're going to get into creating a security, right, or creating something that is very similar to a security, then understanding securities laws is probably a prudent thing for you to do. And so when you see this at the level of founder trying to go through and do this, and then being very cautious about this, also to be like, controversy is generally going to spread a lot faster than, something that's confirmatory or whatever, right? If you and I are butting heads and we're just yelling at each other, that's probably going to spread faster than you and I just having conversations here. So if you and I are talking here and you're like, hey, Sam, did you sell your hacks? And I'm like, well, I don't talk about that shit. And I go on and I pontificate more and more and more. That's, in the one sense, try to cover your butt. But on the other hand, it may actually create more attention from more people talking about you, because you're like, I'm not going to talk about this, right? And then it increases that desire, so to speak.
Do you think this is an important conversation to have? Like for real, like just as you, asking you, not like chat. Like, do you think this, like this one's a little odd for me because I'm on both sides, but I think this information is going to come out. And I think that, like, I think if there was someone that was, let's say somebody regulation was watching the stream, I think they would have a pretty reasonable time understanding. And that's what I want to push. There's guys, you can get popular pushing real info because I'm learning it gets pinched off. People don't know what's going on anymore. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to quit my job. And it takes that. It does take that kind of effort. You don't have to quit your job, but you got to have that effort somewhere, right? And
for me, the biggest thing is literally him just owning 90% of the supply. For me, that personally, that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, but that can change. But that can change, like in 10 years.
Yeah.
But what is it's centralized ownership? That's what you're saying, right? But Richard has made it clear, and I think he could change that. He's a savvy dude. Like, even if it's for money for him, like he can switch it up, right? You're not stupid. You can switch it up. You can take a loss on a day to make $100 million in 2 years, right? Or whatever the case is, So I think these are important. And I am not under the impression that Richard Hart is some perfect human being or some evil human being. The truth is he's somewhere in the middle, just like everyone else, you fucking morons. He's a normal guy. He's crazy. He's a little neurotic. He's had a past. He's emotional. He is good at some things. He's poor at others. He shines in some moments. He doesn't in others. I do the same myself. Sam does the same himself in certain areas of his life. Sam's not the best dude for feeling love and care all the time, I'm sure. Like, whatever it is. Like, it's something. And it's important to understand that he's a human and he put some goddamn good immutable code out 3 years ago, in my opinion. Let's get back to it. But I
think this is a really good video for a lot of people, and the conversation that we're having around it is, I think, definitely a valuable piece, because we're going to see more, assuming that everything continues to evolve as it has been, which I believe it will continue. We're going to have more of these conversations, and this is going to be a cornerstone piece of things that people can turn to and come listen to this conversation.
Sam, we got 140 in here, and I want everyone to smash the like. Make sure you subscribe to our Twitter channel, our Twitter accounts, GYMRAT Crypto and Sam.Stolt. We're on there a lot. We're getting more involved. Yeah, we're GYMRATs, but yeah, we're getting more involved. We're having a good time over there. And to be honest, I think that's where a lot of prosperity will be. And yeah, so I want to go have you guys subscribe there. Make sure you smash the like. And you know what? I want you guys to understand, we do a crypto show every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern called Crypto in the Morning. That's what you're listening to right now. And I know some of you guys want to hear the song one more time, and I have to use the bathroom. It's number one, not number two. And I will be right back, guys. Crypto in the Morning live every single day. This is DeFi proof. Look at the lyrics. He did a really good job doing the lyrics, and it comes up on the screen. And if you look closely, you can see some of our plays. Crypto in the Morning, every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. GYMRAT sent me to show you the way. DeFi proof, yeah. Crypto in the morning. 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 Crypto in the morning.
By telling me.
Here are some of the many examples of Hex marketing used to drive further adoption and increase token value by onboarding fresh users. Subway screens, taxis, bus banners, trucks, magazines, even NASCAR sponsorships, and direct mail marketing postcards sent out all across the country from California to Florida. All of this specifically designed to broaden the public awareness of Hex and fuel increased demand. For some, that may seem innocent or uninteresting. They see these types of ads every single day, so why does it matter? But when building a foundation, the knowledge that Hex as a community has spent an incredibly large amount of money on acquiring fresh users is very important. Let's focus once again on the idea of expected return. Richard Hart, with extreme precision, I might add, plays a series of semantic games whenever he discusses Hex, the community, or potential returns. Similar to his unwillingness to engage in forward-looking statements or discuss expected returns, or even just say whether or not he has sold any Hex tokens ever, we can see an equally obvious effort to redefine existing tax law.
I got another question. Why did you choose to if you think Bitcoin sucks so much, why are you letting people collect Hex by snapshotting their Bitcoin private keys as opposed to their Ethereum keys?
Colloquially called an airdrop.
The reason that I don't like the airdrop term, airdrop means someone else gave you something. I can't possibly give you anything. Only you can give yourself something by having these private keys. I can't give it to you. And when you when you stake your coins and burn the coins, I can't stop you from doing it. And when you make a reward, I can't, there's nothing I can do to affect it. I have no fucking effect or control over it whatsoever. There's nothing
the complaint is the complaint is going to call it an airdrop. So,
well, the reason I don't want to call it an airdrop is because in the United States, you're fucking taxed on your airdrops, aren't you? Right?
No.
And you're taxed on your forks, aren't you? And wouldn't it be cool if this wasn't an airdrop and a fork, right? And then in your jurisdiction, you might have preferential tax treatment.
Yeah, they're going to call it an airdrop.
Well,
and just adding,
I can only do the best I can do, man.
I know,
I can try to fucking make a better thing, and then they can try and make it worse.
You can't semantically, by adding one little function or claim it's one thing and not another, rewrite the laws. That people have tried to do this for
not true.
Thousands of years have been trying to get away with modifying or getting around the laws. And you think that you think that you're somehow the most creative guy in the world because you're not going to call it an airdrop, because you say, oh, well, you have to plug an address in and you actually have to push work, so it's not an airdrop.
Funnily enough,
now, legality with some of these things, Sam, is that fair play when they play the word game, but you stick by the words that are on the paper? Like, he's sticking by the words, no work from others, I can't have this here. Is that generally how these things squeak out at the end of the day? Like, you have to do that, and people do that. So what do you think about that point? Oh, sorry, I muted you, I think. I got to unmute you. Or you have to unmute. Yeah.
There we go. In terms of like the airdrop, I don't have the legal opinion on this because I haven't talked to a lawyer on this, but if somebody is getting an airdrop from something, then that's effectively, you're just changing the semantics of this, because that's.
But what if the valuation of the other thing is zero with no liquidity?
But an airdrop, right, would be a zero at time zero, and then at some point in the future be worth more, right? From my understanding, right? Like every single thing, the instant it gets into your wallet, right, it's worth zero. Once somebody creates a liquidity.
He mentions that though on the pulse chain sacrifice, that the other side's zero initially, obviously, because it has to be, and then there's some tax implications there. He's mentioned this many times, Sam, many times. What do you think about that? Like, in your experience, like, is that fair game? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because I don't know about this, like if there's some type of security law around this or details around this, but if you're given something, like there's certain like gift taxes or gift amounts that you can utilize per year or whatever the case is. But if you're given something at a value of zero and then that thing appreciates in value, right, then you're just going to be paying capital gains on that thing. So you could effectively, if you donated or your money to start a new chain, then that donation could be a tax write-off in the year that it was given, right? So in 2020 for people. And then when it comes out, you basically have a cost basis of zero that goes into the future. So that time, anytime you sell that for any price, it's just going to be a capital gain. It's not necessarily going to be a taxable event when you receive it.
But if you don't, Sam, a lot of these guys have so much money that they don't
sell that for any price. It's just going to be a capital gain.
Sorry. Oh, well, I know, Sam, but they don't sell. Nobody sells. No, I'm sorry. I have the different thing pulled up. But nobody sells, Sam. So the guys that he's talking to aren't going to sell for long periods of time. They're worried about that year's tax implications. They're worried about the year after that's tax implications. You know, because think about it. These guys, let's say you're Richard. Let's say you're all the guys that have a good amount or whatever. And you know that you have $97 million liquid in other places. More liquid, less price appreciation potential probably. More likely to sell 10% of that bag. And then for 2 years, they don't have to pay tax exemption, and then they take $300 million out, and then they figure out the rules then. You know, Sam?
There's a lot of people in crypto, bro, that are doing exactly what you just said. Not necessarily, right? That are just going to.
That's what I'm doing, bro, with my Zen, bro, with everything, bro. It's not touching my wallet till it has to. I ain't stupid. I'm not Mr. Fiddle around with random shit all day long. I have a couple, 10 grand, 20 grand. That's fine for liquid. Okay, whatever it is for you. Everyone's risk to money ratio is different or whatever. But I don't need God mode money floating around in my wallet all the time. But at the same time, you need to be able to make moves depending on what you're doing. You just got to be smart. Nobody's going to take care of your finances. No one's going to defend you, and no one's going to love you more than yourself, period. End of story. That's why understanding these concepts for yourself. I see a lot of bias in the chat. I'm not going to lie. And that is not going to help your pocketbook. I promise. Being a fanboy ain't going to, of me or Richard or Vitalik, ain't going to help you nothing. Get to the bottom of it. Period. You're a man. You're just like them. Do what they do. Do what these guys do. Try to make a difference however you can. Everyone's got skills.
In every single publication out there, the initial free claim process has been universally recognized as an airdrop. Richard Hart is trying to game the system. It's not an airdrop, therefore it might have favorable tax implications. It's not an investment because no one has an expectation of return, even though everyone has an expectation of return. And subsequent airdrops aren't ICOs, initial coin offerings, because you don't buy it, you sacrifice for it. He continues to play these games in a deliberate effort to avoid regulation day in and day out. Expanding on this, we need to talk about what sacrificing actually is, because sacrificing is the life's blood of Richard Hart's empire. Traditional ICO sales are relatively straightforward. Buy the token, hope that the token increases in price, and later sell the token. This kind of offering is certainly prone to abuse, with early investors often dumping their seed tokens or holdings on future investors after high initial gains, but sacrificing is a league of its own. Hex was not launched with traditional mechanisms. Rather than only allowing people to purchase the token directly, which also was possible, thereby expecting to get rich, Hex was also given to everyone so long as they established proof of ownership in Bitcoin. In conjunction with this, Hex often broadcasts their number of wallets holding the token as a metric to be proud of. Big user base, high interest, strong project, or at least something like that, I think, is the thought process. It says right on their homepage, 515,000 wallets hold Hex. However, it turns out that over 170,000 of these addresses were given minuscule amounts of Hex in order to drastically inflate the supposed user base, which even now is over 1/3 of the entire community. But at launch, it was barely 200,000 wallets, according to the oldest archive I could find, which means that initially, something like 85% of their token holders in entirety were fake. To put this in context, these wallets were given either 100 or 101 Hex tokens, which means that
the probably the shady stuff that he was doing with his marketing in the past, right? That people call him out on, or that people don't necessarily agree on, right? If I have $1,000, right, for of like a SAM token, and I give every single one of those 1,000 people, or let's say 10,000 people, a penny of my SAM token, then I could claim that 10,000 people own my SAM token, even if they wanted it or didn't want it. Right. And I don't know if that's the case, but that seems to be what he's portraying here. And given that, Richard likes to cherry pick times and things like that, and wants to, utilize certain vernacular
because of the naivete of the audience.
Yeah. And he's trying to do it in a way that manipulates things in a certain way, which is not necessarily good or bad. It's just what it is. Right, to airdrop to a bunch of fucking wallets that don't ever use it or claim it, and then use that as the same.
Well, at the time, the options were limited too. Like,
3 years ago,
that many. And it was called Hex Bitcoin to start. Like, it was like it changed, right? Like, he had to switch his ideas up. We all know about the adoption amplifier. We all know about, you know, the stakes that got doubled and all that stuff. Like there was things that he was changing, but you can change just because something's immutable doesn't mean the reason it's immutable is for a certain aspect of the asset. But the reason Richard has a lot of it is so that it's a fail safe, so he can change the dynamics of things within it with most of the supply because they're all self-reflecting loops, right? He knows that more than everyone. And there's only a few guys that know that, maybe 100, 150, 300, 500, maybe, that really understand that self-feedback loop. I watched Hedron come out and everyone got free money and they all said that it was a scam. They said it was a scam, Sam. I said it was not a scam. And I said this has better price appreciation potential in a shorter amount of time. And now look at everyone. They're D-riders. And they don't remember what I was saying about, not D-riders for me, D-riders for Hedron. And I am too, right? It's a great asset. Like it's cool. It's a different thing. I think things like that make it more real too. I think things like that make it more real, but less price appreciation in a way. Like more opportunities, Sam, those end stake fees, different opportunities. That's how we get around some of the problems with Hex. I've always had Hex scaling problems in my head because of the gas fee structure. But in this case, you know, these derivatives, I give them heat because it takes pressure off of Hex, but at the same time, maybe Hex needs pressure off of it. You know, so it's interesting. All the stuff's interesting. I don't know what the major point was, but we'll go back. Great stuff, guys. I'm really enjoying this, and I have a giveaway. This is the last freaking time I'm going to run myself out of money. But you know, everything that leaves my wallet comes off the taxes. Just kidding. But no, seriously, I've been giving away a little bit of BMBP just because, you know, it's stuff that I have a little bit loose in my wallet to one person who retweets the Twitter stream today. I'll give it away at the end of the show. This is the last time I'm doing this. This is 3 days in a row. I'm done. It's just a little, it's so fun to give away BNBP. I don't know why, but it's only like 10.
Tell people what to do in order to be in the drawing.
Retweet and like. That's all you got to do. Retweet and like. I pick one from the retweets. That's all you got to do.
This tweet right here. So if you want to do it, you can click on that tweet, go over to Twitter, retweet this, and then you'll be in the drawing for that at the end of the day.
And I'm not sending you spare BNB, dude. I only have spare BNB generally. So like in the random wallets that I send from. So you got to take care of having a little BNBP. And if you want it to be a burner wallet, I will shark your wallet and look at everything you've traded in your entire life within 12 minutes over my coffee in the morning, probably. So send me a burner. Send me a burner. And I'm kidding, but I want you to think like that. Send me a burner. Send something that maybe you can start fresh so you don't have to have someone looking at your stuff for the rest of the time in case you hit it big with one of these assets and then you got to get a little more secure. It is true. It is an issue that happens over time.
Value they held wasn't even enough to cover the fees required to sell that many of the tokens. Most people probably didn't even know it was in their wallet in the first place. Funnily enough, I ran into this a long time ago in a completely different project. So yeah, a lot of threads tying back together. At the all-time peak price of Hex, these 170,000 wallets would have each roughly had $40. The price has since come crashing back down to earth. And right now, as of the making of this video, that's nearly 200,000 people that have less than $3 in the project. And yet the website advertises a community that numbers over 500,000. This is where Richard Hart will hide behind his semantics on whether or not this entire process was an airdrop. But what came after was infinitely more interesting. Hex by itself is just one part of a three-headed monster. Hex is the base token, Pulse Chain is the second offering, and Pulse X is the third iteration. In order to engage with Pulse Chain or Pulse X for those in the Hex community, you need to sacrifice. Rather than purchasing tokens or being awarded tokens based on prior holdings, like the first time with the initial Hex token, investors needed to sacrifice their money and expect nothing in return by sending it to an unknown address. What's more, Richard Hart has dodged answering the question on every single occasion where it's come up, whether or not he owns these addresses, whether or not he owns the founder's address as well, originally responsible for the creation of Hex, which is in fact his smart contract, so how could he not own it, and whether or not he is in control of almost the entire supply.
This one came in from a user on Twitter. Ask Richard who owns the Hex Origin account.
Well, you're not supposed to know. It's not publicly known. Worked out good for Bitcoin. Who's Satoshi? Price went up 690 million%.
Is it you, Richard?
Nobody knows. Not publicly known.
Way. Who controls these?
Nobody knows. Just like Satoshi. Who's Satoshi? Nobody knows. Did he ever dump the price? Nope.
But somebody
would have instructed the origin wallet to send to these daughter wallets. So
how do you know it's even a human? Maybe it's a DAO with voting. Maybe it's a machine. Maybe it's a foundation. Maybe it's an African priest. Who knows?
Here's the problem. Sacrificing is intended to circumvent regulation. Hex and further ventures like Pulse Chain and Pulse X are purpose-built to avoid existing legal structures, but the process itself, where money is sacrificed, had a leaderboard. When sacrificing with a supposed lack of expected return, even though everyone expected a return here, there was a volume bonus multiplier where the more you sacrificed, the more you got back. This completely shatters the idea that users were not expecting anything back, because every single one of them got something in return, with a predefined rule set dictating how much, while being financially incentivized to sacrifice more and more and more. Even further, Richard Hart himself might have been the largest participant in these sacrifices, while refusing to ever acknowledge whether or not he owns the wallets. Still, why does it matter? It matters because Hex does not have underlying economic activity to generate value. The entire purpose of the smart contract is to mint inflationary tokens and distribute them to users who have locked theirs away. The longer you agree to lock your money, the more you get back. However, for Hex tokens to maintain value under the immutable pressure of constant inflationary minting, there needs to be fresh capital entering the system. In fact, in order for Hex to maintain its relative value right now, there will need to be hundreds of millions of dollars injected every.
Whatever stat he's about to say is so wrong and so incorrect. I don't know what he's about to say, but it's super incorrect. I can already tell.
I'm looking at he just said something about Hex and saying that there's no like economic activity in there. And so let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, can we back it up and play it for 1 minute and 30 seconds?
Go back 10 seconds and then I want to dive into that.
Yeah, because he's about to go off the rails, I think, because I know this information. Sam knows this information like the back of our flipping hands, because he provides LP. I look at this shit all day long. It's interesting to note some of these points. He's about to ruin his fluff. He's about to ruin his hit piece.
Matters because Hex does not have underlying economic activity to generate value.
I think.
The entire purpose of the smart contract is intended to circumvent
It's just
regulation.
the same screen.
Hex and further ventures like Pulse Chain and Pulse X are purpose-built to avoid existing legal structures, but the process itself, where money is sacrificed, had a leaderboard. When sacrificing with a supposed lack of expected return, even though everyone expected a return here, there was a volume bonus multiplier where the more you sacrificed, the more you got back. This completely shatters the idea that users were not expecting anything back, because every single one of them got something in return, with a predefined rule set dictating how much, while being financially incentivized to sacrifice more and more and more. Even further, Richard Hart himself might have been the largest participant in these sacrifices, while refusing to ever acknowledge whether or not he owns the wallets. Still, why does it matter? It matters because Hex does not have underlying economic activity to generate value. The entire purpose of the smart contract is to mint inflationary tokens and distribute them to users who have locked theirs away. The longer you agree to lock your money, the more you get back. However, for Hex tokens to maintain value under the immutable pressure of constant inflationary minting, there needs to be fresh capital entering the system. In fact, in order for Hex to maintain its relative value right now, there will need to be hundreds of millions of dollars injected every single year, like clockwork, otherwise the token will crash. This is important because a huge percentage of people who have been absorbed.
Not true, even in the slightest. All you have to do to maintain value is have money in the liquidity pool, period. End of story. If there is money in the liquidity pool, you can sell your Hex. Doesn't mean the price goes up, doesn't mean nothing. It means that you could sell your Hex for as much money as you put it in there when the liquidity pool was the same. So this guy's missing a big piece. He doesn't understand liquidity pools. He doesn't understand exactly why the price goes up. Some of those nuanced low liquidity things that are really hard to get a grasp on. And $100 million a year in fresh buy pressure, completely incorrect.
The
10%.
When he said something about economic activity, and I pulled up Uniswap, right? So this is decentralized.
We'll go to it. Go pull that up, please.
If you look, actually, I'll share my screen here quick. If you go to Uniswap, so it's info.uniswap.org, you can actually see what are the most traded tokens on Uniswap, right? So if you don't know what Uniswap is, it's a DEX, right? So that means it's a decentralized exchange here. And when we do that, right, we pull this up here and you scroll down.
So when we're talking about Uniswap on-chain liquidity, this is exactly what we're talking about. These metrics that Sam's bringing up right here. This is it. it's transparent. It's on chain. Sam, that's important to note, I think.
So check this out. So this is page 1, the top 10. And this is, I've sorted these based upon volume, right? So there's $409 million of volume in the last 24 hours with Ethereum. That's a lot, right? Like that's a lot of volume. So that means per week, there's multiple billions of dollars transacted in Ethereum. Well, let's go down. Let's go to page 2. Let's see what page 2 looks like. Well, here, number 15 is Hex, right? There's $11 million.
15, number 15. I want everyone to notice this. 15 in the entire Uniswap pool, whether you think that's high or low. Hex is sitting there at number 15. It's in the conversation. It's relevant. As you can see, look at Zen Crypto, number 20.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
50 days old, Sam. 50 days old, Sam. I don't want, well, that's it. That's it. That's all we're talking about. Go back to Hex. Whoops. Slip. It's the Freudian slip, they call it.
Yes. Okay, let's get back into this video because I'm going to run out of time in 14 minutes.
Shit, my bad, bro.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, there's literally 10 minutes of the video left, and we can just play it through and just hop off whenever you want. Again, we can touch on some of the points. I think we're getting a lot of the points through, and I can cover a lot of the info. If you have to jump off, just do so.
By the cult are currently sitting on their hand.
And last chance on the giveaway. This is a last chance. If all you have to do is retweet and like, and then you get in the giveaway. We'll talk about it later. I use a little app that just runs through the people, and then it picks one.
Ends with locked tokens. Now, that could be fine temporarily or in the short term, because as long as the number of people injecting fresh capital surpasses the number of people trying to cash out, the price goes up. Basic logic. But as soon as the number of people coming out of lockup surpasses the number of people buying in, well, this happens. The cold hard truth here is that without the flashy marketing campaigns, the constant onboarding of fresh users who don't know any better, and the restrictive lockup timeframes to keep the public from cashing out, the price of Hex would crater to zero and never come back. Richard Hart has exerted great effort to avoid the
It's just, that's a wrong. That's not a real, that dude, this is all fluff right here. This dude's not getting detailed right here. I'll let it go.
Technical classification of a Ponzi scheme. However, if you look at the reality of what Hex is and how it functions, you'll see that an asset was given to users through an obfuscated airdrop, who then unilaterally expected to get rich. Many of those users were convinced to lock up their funds for a set reward, which will temporarily stave off the inevitable collapse in price, but eventually inflow of new users to absorb inflation and unlocked selling will fall below a certain threshold, and the entire system will implode. According to community analysis, nearly all of the top 500 wallets that hold Hex right now are directly associated with Richard Hart himself. And while I cannot make a claim with absolute certainty on this, backtracking the origin wallets and the original funding addresses lends a great deal of confidence to the notion that Richard Hart is in full control of over 3/4 of the entire Hex supply. This is a very strange thing because Richard Hart has gone on record with public animosity towards Bitcoin on the basis that an unknown party controls a great deal of supply. Meanwhile, he refuses in all circumstances to acknowledge who owns the origin address of Hex, the sacrifice addresses for Pulse Chain and Pulse X, which contain hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars each. While
and all the Hexicans know that he owns those pretty much. Like he kind of says that all the
time. But there's also like a tremendous amount of cherry picking involved, right? So on the one hand, centralized ownership is good when it comes to
before Hex. This was before he came out with Hex. Remember?
I know. But he had Hex out in those videos where he's talking about it, like, oh, Satoshi owns 40% of the supply of BTC.
I know that was before Hex, but like you can see how I call Richard a big time flip flopper on a lot of stuff. I call him beach flip flops. I say Richard's one of the biggest beach goers I know. He's got flip flops on all the time because when he came out with his own product, his tone changed, and that's normal. But you got to watch your tracks, Richard. It's very critical. He's smart about those fine how he tests points, but I think socially he gets a little stuck up sometimes.
But he said it after it's come out, right? That Satoshi owns the big portion of BTC, right? And and nobody knows who that is, right? And using that at the same time, and yet at the same time, 6 sentences later, we'll use that as a point to criticize and doesn't understand.
Richard tries to dominate conversations like that, and it draws his audience to that 90%, Sam. That 90%. Remember we talk about
they're too slow to catch on to like what's happening.
It's hard because why would you? Why would you? We're weird, bro. Like, why would you? We do this all the time. You were one of the first guys to talk about semaglutide and sell semaglutide, a beautiful thing, which is taken over in pharmacology now and it's totally legal. Everyone slandered you, I'm sure. You got slandered, thrown under the bus, everything. Now it's cool, right? Now it's chill, right? Now Titan Medical sells it, right? That's fine. It's good to go now, right? So you have really good experience with this kind of shit. Like, this does not phase you. This does not phase me. This does not. We are trained for this exact scenario. There's no feelings in finance, period. This is player versus player. Me versus Sam. Sam's not like, move your LP, I'm coming in. Like, I don't ask him. Like, it's all player versus player. I'm smart enough to know that. I'm not going at his throat, like, it's not like that, but it's everyone. It's you. Nobody will take care of your finances. Nobody will take care of you like you. So you need to learn the information. Let's get back into it.
Well, a strong possibility remains that he owns nearly 9/10 of all circulating hex tokens.
Dude, let me give you some more bullshit, okay? If Bitcoin were fully adopted, do you think it's okay that an unknown party owns 10% of the coins? You think it's okay that Satoshi owns 10% of the global currency supply? Because you don't know
pre-hex alert.
Who's in control of the keys, right? So maybe Kim Jong-il becomes control of the keys. Now what, right? So you can't have a fully adopted currency where 10% of it's owned by someone that you don't know who the fuck they are. That don't work, okay?
All of this raises questions, to be sure, but how is it that I can label this community a cult? Well, for starters, how about this?
I get people to stop smoking, stop drinking, stop gambling, stop trading, drink more.
And the truth is, Richard gets people to do none of those things. Richard is, and I'm just going to be frank for a second, becoming more obese as the moments go on. He doesn't look as healthy as he used to. And frankly, he talks about women and having sex constantly. He talks about designer products constantly. And I'm not saying he doesn't have some sort of emotional security in his own life. I don't know about that. But the message that he preached back then that got me is no longer the message which is preached, period. Sam, again, you can jump off whenever you want.
More water, be healthier human beings. I've published multiple self-help books for free that you can go download at t.me/sci-fi.
Pretty good book. Pretty damn good book.
Thousands of emails from people whose lives I have saved. I've also raised $27 million for medical research to save your life. So as far as people in cryptocurrencies go, I'm basically like a god. Basically like a god. Basically like a god.
Hex is led by an enigmatic, deliberately secretive, and charismatic leader. That leader also very likely owns the vast majority of all tokens. This leader has referred to himself as a god on more than one occasion and distributes funds to his followers by way of sacrifice. While doing so, he uses strong religious themes, evangelical rhetoric, and his followers travel the country in groups attempting to convert new users. One example of this is called the 5555 tour, which indicates the maximum number of days that Hex can be locked in the system, which saw community members traveling thousands of miles to hold seminars, rewarding prospective new cult members with lottery opportunities, and reeling them in with promises of massive returns. This effort was designed to pump the price of Hex to $7, but faced with unrelenting downward pressure as a result of inflation and community selling, the price never even crossed 50 cents. Everyone who came on board, everyone who invested during the most prominent marketing cycle that the token has ever seen, everyone who succumbed to the pressure of the cult is now down massively and effectively stuck, forced to push the cult's message to anyone who will listen.
And that's normal crypto cycles, guys. You're going to see that with every cryptocurrency. You're going to see ERC20s that don't have over 50 million liquidity drop 99%, 100%. You're going 95% to 99%. You're going to see even things with 500 million in liquidity like Ethereum drop 90%. So everyone who bought Ethereum is down forever. I'm sure this dude bought Ethereum. Like, he's down forever, right? It's over forever, right? No, it's kind of a hit piece, so he's playing it like that. Let's get back into it.
Desperately hoping to find an exit. In preparation for this video, I spoke with a number of different sources, one of which was actually present during this national tour, and another who has been involved with Hex since the very beginning. I was also allowed to verify this with private documents and wallet addresses, giving me a high degree of confidence that these whistleblowers are a reputable source of information. According to some of the earliest, most vocal supporters of Hex as a token, who self-identify as having escaped the cult, Richard Hart has led them into a system where it is extremely difficult to break free. Early adopters are forced to wait until there is enough liquidity before they can even turn a profit, which means they are faced with only two options. Either help perpetuate the growth of the cult and thereby allow themselves an exit strategy, maybe, which may in fact be highly profitable as well, or go against.
That's kind of true. That's kind of true. Like, there's a lot of guys that can't sell because they have like infinite bags, so they kind of just work for the team. So that's kind of true.
Yes. People who have locked up their shit for 15 years, they're kind of stuck. They're kind of like they can only do one thing, right? It's talk positively about their thing.
Sam, I coined a term for this exact phenomenon in the world. Like, I coined the term staker syndrome. The personality traits that ensue after one puts too much of one's net wealth into a smart contract, which is burnt, and it changes your personality forever, because a large piece of your net worth is now, you work for that, baby. And staker syndrome is real. And I invented staker syndrome, and I coined the term, and I said it proudly because it's truthfully a thing. It is a thing that happens. I have grown men calling me an idiot, calling me a scam artist. I've never asked for $1 from anyone. I've never done anything. They're upset. Why? Because they have forced bias due to putting too much of their net worth into a smart contract that they truly don't understand. Then they work for the squad. And it happens. And I'm sorry. And I hate to bring it up. And it's a real thing. And I tell people every day, don't over leverage. Always have USDC on the sideline. Always make sure you're studying the information and earning passive yield. Make sure your coin counts on everything are going up, and make sure you can always make a play. These are critical, fundamental pieces. And emotional fitness really plays into that too. Let's get back in.
Got to run
and likely lose everything.
Hey, great to see you, Sam. I'm going to play this out, guys. Biceps in the chat for Sam, guys. Make sure you follow him on YouTube and Twitter. He's breaking down liquidity providing better than any human on the internet. Uniswap, Sam earns fees on Uniswap V3, and he really is down on that cause. He's Crypto in the Morning guy, and he's an LP god. And thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you, bro. Hey, great show. Great to see everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Tomorrow, guys, we'll be back on with Sam. I think we're going to try to get on Jack Leb tomorrow, talk about some ZenFTs. Boom. And some AI art, guys. I'm trying to figure out this AI art stuff. So if any of you guys are super good with AI art, please hit me up in my DMs. I'm trying to figure all that shit out today.
One potential source who was most likely very familiar with the inner workings of Hex flat out refused to speak to me, citing that they had a substantial sacrifice bag that they did not want to see damaged as a result of exposing the cult's inner workings. It was, quote, the only reason he stayed in the community, because the reality behind Hex is extremely troubling. Early adopting whales are the very first people to unlock their tokens, generally speaking. What do? Well, with more circulating theoretical value of Hex than could ever possibly be redeemed for actual cash, they are forced to perpetuate the revolving door of user adoption and take turns selling into these new customers as they create liquidity. The new customers, they are typically convinced to lock their investment for a set period of time, waiting helplessly as the liquidity dries up completely and the value of their investment craters as a result. All the while, more and more tokens are entering circulation, building up a massive glut in the market that realistically can never be redeemed. When will this overextension unwind? I'm not sure, but when it does, well, that's when people lose everything. Still, all of this so far pertains to Hex directly and the systems behind it, but there is one more thing integral to the prosperity of any cult following, and that is its leader. Richard Hart, also known as Richard Schuller, has a lengthy history before his creation of Hex, some of which is cause for concern. Richard Hart's own website refers to him as a force for good in this world, yet his fortune, millions of dollars from a very young age, was built on an empire of spam. Quote, my name is Richard Schuller. I'm a 23-year-old multimillionaire, and I'm inviting you to learn how to spam millions of people per day like I do. I used to work for usaprescriptions.com, and now I operate my own.
Guys, when it comes to spamming, we all know that spamming and that not the technology, but what that was at the time was probably the best business opportunity in history, and Richard was probably just realizing that at the time and taking advantage. As you can see, that market is completely gone now. It's super diluted. Everyone spams everything, so it's not as cool, and that's why guys don't do it anymore. Like, spamming is like, business 101. Like, but then you don't have to do it anymore because it's too people don't do it anymore. So it's stupid now. So It's the bots, everything. It's just, this is classic RH just doing shit that probably was profitable as fudge.
Online pharmacy business, which is hacker, IRS, and
it was probably legal. I don't know. It's probably legal. I don't know. Let's see. I'm sure it was legal. Like, or this would have been brought up a million more times.
Anti-spam are untouchable and is the single largest spam email marketing company in the world today. End quote. What's more, according to some very early conversations that were actually leaked between Richard Hart and a man named Jonathan Sterling before the Hex token even launched, I believe, Richard Hart was stating that he would soon be truthful about his identity. And yet, years later, after multiple sacrificial funding rounds that very much seem to connect back to him personally, that still isn't the case. Even deeper, there appear to be multiple passports of his under false names from multiple separate countries. Out of respect, I won't share these publicly, but they are allegedly part of a broader conspiracy in which contract murder took place, leading to Richard Hart eventually fleeing the country of Panama with an urgent cry for help to the Panama American Citizen Services. Once again, even further, established by a lawsuit in 2002, Richard Hart, or rather his actual identity, Richard Schuller, was one of the very first people in the world to be successfully sued for online spam, indicating that he may be extremely familiar with emerging unregulated industries or technologies and may have, historically speaking, used that lack of regulation to take advantage of people with unethical and predatory business tactics. Richard Hart previously sold anti-aging cures, among other ventures, landing himself the title of Spam King. And after finding himself on what seems to be the receiving end of a robbery in Panama, perhaps as a result of the criminal ring he may or may not have been associated with, where accusations of alleged activity include extortion, blackmail, and robbery, he seems to have fled the country and moved on to crypto. The cult of Hex is a complicated creature, created by a man who has referred to himself on more than one occasion as God, designed to dodge the legal structure of securities and taxation policy, formed around the concept of sacrifice rather than investment, and reinforcing participation by locking members inside as long as humanly possible. Hex is a brilliantly constructed financial cult with members who will stop at nothing to help it succeed. This video could be 4 hours long. While researching and discussing with sources, I was made aware of an instance that strongly points towards $26 million being siphoned out of a sacrificial address and put directly back into manipulating the market price of Hex itself. I learned about a prior token created by Richard Hart called CFD, which utterly failed, with much of the evidence deleted or pulled down. I was given countless clips where the development structure of the project changed, from an Ethereum fork to a Binance fork, or a nearly insurmountable number of examples where the project has been delayed, week after week, month after month, soon perhaps year after year, because it seems that the project, or products rather, don't actually exist. But for the sake of time, I'll wrap it up with this. Hex influencers, many of the largest whales responsible for the most aggressive marketing maneuvers, contributing to the rise of the token price during the initial pump, such as the 5555 tour, where they travel the country looking for new investors, have been subpoenaed by the SEC. Regulators are starting to take notice, and just because a project has avoided the technical wording of a Ponzi scheme right now with new technology, or a multi-level marketing scam, doesn't mean that it's functionally different. For the people stuck inside, it's a prison, and I feel for you. But pushing this project on others in a desperate attempt to dig yourself out of such a hole is not an ethical thing to do. Eventually, the number of people joining the cult will be smaller than the number of people trying to leave. That seems to be the case already. And when that balance is too far disrupted, it all comes crashing down. For right now, Hex remains, some sort of twisted financial cult hybrid that continues to find fresh victims each and every day. Its community displays great devotion, not only to Richard Hart, a charismatic quasi-religious authority figure, but also to the idea of financial freedom. From every direction, every angle, and every perspective, I believe that Hex fulfills all existing criteria as an actual, legitimate cult of worship. Only instead of divine power, they worship at the altar of Richard Hart and crypto. However, when that finally changes, and change it will, the fallout will be extreme. That's it. If you want to support, please check out the links down below, Patreon and Locals for a monthly subscription, merch, social media, etc., etc. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.
I'm basically like a god.
All right, so you guys want to know my final thoughts on the piece, on Hex, on Richard Hart. I'll give it to y'all straight. This is what I think, 100%. I'm not going to hold back at all. I think Richard Hart is a normal dude who's pretty darn smart, a little bit neurotic, and he's a go-getter, a little dorky, nerdy to me, but not someone who wants to hurt others, not someone who wants to prey on others. There's $10 million in liquidity in Hex. He's not preying on anyone. And you can think he's preying on some people and stuff. Maybe he's just, and yeah, he is probably making money from all this. But there's $10 million in liquidity. That is not his safe, you know. And if I have any criticism on Richard Hart, it's the sacrifice and all of that. I wish that would have been more clear and more concise. And remember, we were in a kind of bull run. But at the same time, a lot of that kinetic energy from the US dollar valuation at the time still remains in that sacrifice. That's loaded up volume. And we're all looking for cheap fees and a good UI. And that's what I'm hoping for in the future. Cheap fees and a good UI and some V3 on top of all that. Sugar spice. I think Richard Hart is a normal dude. I think he's kind of selfish. I think he's kind of needs to understand that people are going to be coming in and understanding his BS way quick. Like it didn't take me, but it's not all BS. He's saving people from, he knows if this works out and people are actually locked up and things stay in there, they'll probably have more money than they ever would having liquid funds. 90% of human beings with liquid funds will sell them or swap them or get wrecked on them. And that's one of the biggest problems with crypto. So getting some of that kinetic energy out of the way so you can't have your little dirty hands on it into a place that is somehow outpacing inflation. 16% inflation this year, 10% inflation. Hex's inflation rate is 3.69%. The only problem with Hex is that Richard owns all of it, and he decided to make himself the easiest hateful target in history. So all the repercussions from that, he will have to face. And his people, the SEC violations. I'd probably get an SEC violation. What the hell do I know? Who knows? I won't be begging for money on the internet for it. You can guarantee me that. Because I got to show myself as someone who can handle themselves, who can deal with these things. I'm an investor. I don't need a backup. I don't need anyone. I have to put myself in that position. Okay? And if I fail, I fail. So, guys, I think Richard Hart, you know, a little bit selfish, a little bit nerdy, but invented something really cool, immutable software at the time. It was extremely good at the time. And I think innovation, I think things like Zen Crypto and other things get, you know, bogged down by a lot of the hexagons that could probably, frankly, use it, which I think is real wrong for him to say that everyone's helping people, but then anyone who talks about anything else, he just cuts them out forever. Richard Hart has never interacted with me about any of my questions that I've given him. Every time I've asked him a question, he's dodged it or not. I've asked him to come on the show 150 times, DM'd him 150 fucking times. And then he blocked me when I started talking about Zen, sent me a nasty voicemail, and I didn't really give a shit. I was just like, whatever, like it is what it is. Like, move on. I still have the shit. I still like the shit. I still think what he did is great. But I think it's important to note all of these things. I'm not Mr. Feelings Championship. I have plenty of friends and shit and girls I can chill with and do whatever. But I'm not going to bow down to some narrative. That's stupid. It's ignorant. That's how you get wrecked. You know, I've made a lot of money in this bear run. None of it's been with Hex, except for LP, which the sideways action on Hex really is a great environment for V3 LP providing, especially if it lasts for a while. So can you share the voicemail, DRC? It's not a voicemail, it's just an Instagram message. Well, he just called me a dickhead, basically. He basically said you shouldn't try and punk me, and Zen is shit. He's like, you punked my name, what do you expect? Something like that. It wasn't crazy. I'm not going to send it around, though. And I think it's important. I hope he comes on the show. I hope he can come on the show. I hope he's allowed to talk to me or whatever. I hope we can have open console about this, because if we can't, that's going to be a red flag for me. And I'm not saying he has to talk to me, but like somehow get questions answered in some way. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but one thing that I am is I'm very socially smart. I have a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of things. I've been I had drug problems, you know, I did all these crazy things. I've met many people. I dated a lot of chicks at some point. Like I've experienced doing a lot of the things that guys that are a little bit nerdier never had the chance to do. So it makes all those things I don't care about those things. I don't care about money at all. I fucking care less, dude. I give away money all the time because to me, it's just a tool. I just want to see what can happen in this world. And eventually I'm going to have a product that I have to stand by, and I'm going to have to put myself in some positions and have some hard conversations with myself about some of the words I said in the past. And at that time, I will try. I hope that I can step up. But I think if you align your will with the universe and with what you're good at, it all comes to fruition. You just have to, whatever you can imagine in your mind comes true, but you have to have confidence in yourself. You have confidence in your family and that you're grounded enough to continue to move forward. And I'm a worker. I was put on this earth to work and to focus and to study and to learn. And I want to continue to do that. That's what I like. Crypto in the Morning. We're live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. I don't think Richard Hart has scammed anyone, but I don't think he's been honest about everything. And I don't necessarily think, I don't know the rules enough, but I have some hacks and I have some stakes. And I think the guys in the ecosystem, some of the smartest devs building that ecosystem, some really smart stuff, good guys. Dogecoin, remember Dogecoin, guys? It had an explosive community. Why don't they get SEC violations? Nobody knows, right? Who knows, right? Well, there's some nuance there, but seriously, it's that explosive community vibe that can change the world because humans change the world. And I don't care where it comes out, but pump my bags, mother. Just kidding. Everybody have an amazing day. If anything pops off with SBF, Elon Musk, anyone crazy in the Twitter spaces, you go to GRC's channel. He'll be covering it live. I'll be on the clock for like 3 or 4 more hours, guys. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoy the content. I do content like this at 11 a.m. Eastern every single day, very detailed. Everything else a little more funsies, hang out. I still dive into everything. But I think it's important that we continue to focus. Bear market, we can make good gains and learn. Learning is the most key. You learn when the tides are side. Everyone says you buy when you learn. You build, get around more builders, people that create. I have that problem myself. I isolate myself sometimes. I need to roam free. I need to move. I need to meet people that are builders. Sometimes I like to stay in my hut and study, guys. Crypto in the Morning live every single day at 11 a.m. Eastern. Let me pick someone on the retweet on Twitter. Actually, I'll just post it below because I got to run the thing. Everybody have an amazing day. I still have to send 10 BMBP to the guy yesterday who tweeted, and then I'm going to be picking one today. I already picked the one from yesterday, Danny Boy, and then Piers.eth one the day before that, and then today I'm going to pick one today. So I'll be live tomorrow, and I might be live later, guys. Have an amazing day. Crypto in the Morning every single day. DeFi Proof, the official rapper of the channel. GYMRAT Crypto on all my socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You got me, boy. Let's go. Biceps for Bullish, biceps for Sam. Have an amazing day. God bless.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that just in case. GYMRAT sent me to show you the way.